Hey guys, thanks a lot for joining us in this video. My name is Raj, and here is my twin brother Rajat. We all we both came back to India from the US in 2022, and since then we have been working on two startups of our own here. Right now, we are sitting in Kaban Park in Bangalore, and we are making this video to tell you guys that even if in the US the situation is a bit hard right now, jobs are a bit difficult and students are being laid off from their jobs, H1B visa has been rejected, you don't need to worry. We came back to India 2 years back and life has been amazing for us. So in this video we'll hopefully clarify some of the doubts for you which you must be facing, that what are the next steps to do if you are laid off in your job, or what are the next step to do, how to come back to India, how the situation is in India, etc. So guys, hopefully this video helps you in your journey, and if you are having any doubts or questions in your mind right now, and let's dive right in. So Raj, there are a lot of students in the US who are currently stuck because either they are not getting any jobs over there, or they are not getting selected in the H1B lottery, and many of them are in kind of a panic mode where we are seeing a trend that the acceptance of Indian students in the US companies is not as high as it was before. So, what are your thoughts about this present scenario? Yeah, so as you have clearly said, I have also noticed after talking to so many of my friends that the H1B results have just come out, and unfortunately, for many students, their H1B visa has been rejected for the third time consecutively, and that means that they have now have to come back to India. So, for many students who are living in the US, they feel that it's a very terrible situation and something bad has happened, that they have to come back to India, and the American dream which they had essentially visualized, that will not come to fruition, and that's why students are in this kind of panic mode which you mentioned in the question. Even in terms of jobs and layoffs, many tech companies are announcing layoffs, and some students are losing jobs. And even if you have an H1B visa, if you don't get a job within 60 days, you have to leave the US. So it's another pressurizing situation like that. My only thing which I want to say right now is that I have actually come back to India along with you in 2022, and we are sitting in Bangalore right now in Kaban Park having this cup of chai. All I want to say, students, is that maybe it's not that bad that you have to come to India. Right now, it may seem like things are not going your way, but we have been in India for the last 2 years running our company, and it has led to some of the happiest days of our life. That's all I have to say. Yeah, one more follow-up question I had, which might be useful for people who are in this scenario in the US currently. They would like to have a perspective on what are the kind of opportunities that these people would have in India if they come back. So, if you can shed some light on that based on your own experience in the Indian ecosystem that you have seen currently, if these people were forced to come back to India, either because of not getting a job or not being selected in the H1B lottery, what are the possible options out there for these students? The way I see it, there are three possible options for the student. First option is what we did, both of us. Students can come back to India and start their own company. It's the best time in India right now to kind of start your own company. Take the idea which you might have had for a long period of time. Find people who are interested. So we are in Bangalore right now, right? It is a place which has the highest density of startups. You can come here, you can network with people, find a co-founder, and just start a company like we did. You may think it's a bit hard right now, but it's not. It's actually much more easier than you think it might be at this particular given moment. That's the first option of starting your own company. The second option is, if your company in the US right now has a branch in India, then you can come back and directly join that particular branch. But if the second option is not feasible, the third option is you can start looking for jobs, which is also called job hunting in India right now. Uh, And for that you can contact some friends who have been in the startup community or who know people who can connect you, and you will find that the job market in India is not that bad as it is in the US. You may even get jobs which are at the same position what you currently have in the US or abroad, and that is the third way in which you can transition to India. So there are several ways actually in which you can come back and you can start your work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember personally when I came back to India, it was a little bit of a challenge to get used to the lifestyle in India, and I'm sure many students are having a lot of concerns, not just with respect to their professional life, but also with respect to the personal life in terms of the kind of facilities and infra that they have gotten used to in the US. Uh, they would take time to get used to in India. So, what was your experience like exactly month by month as you moved back from the US to India? How much time did it take for you to uh, get used to Indian conditions? Were there moments where you felt like I should have stayed back in the US? And how did you overcome that? Can you explain that whole journey to the people so that they get some sense of clarity apart from the professional options, but uh, relating to their own personal life when
That
they come back to India?
That's a great question, Rajat. And before answering this question, I would like to tell you the type of person I am. So I am the type of person who, instead of going to Starbucks or another big expensive coffee chain for a cup of coffee, I prefer to sit in a park or in a small shop and have chai like this. And I think there are many people like that. So if you are the type of person like that who loves to be in the ground roots, India is the best place to come back to, because you can have a walk at night and go to a place which serves tea. You can literally find so many small shops like that, which was impossible to do in the US. That being said, as you mentioned in the question, there is a flip side to it, right? In terms of infrastructure which is available, in terms of the facilities which are available, and in the US, some of it is much better. Water is water shortage is not there in many places. Currently, in Bangalore, it's experiencing water shortage. Then, with respect to safety at night, it's also better in the US. With respect to several other things, and in India, when you come back, it will get time for you to adjust to some of the things, and it does. It's a learning curve, I would say, to get used to those type of less infrastructure in India, but it's worth it. There are some other things which are much better, such as UPI has revolutionized finance. Startups like Urban Company, Swiggy, Zomato, Dunzo, they have revolutionized your needs for small things. So when small things don't work, now the fix is right there for you. All those things are better in India, but large level infrastructure problems, safety issues, sometimes that may haunt you, and you may feel that why did I come back? Secondly, in the US, you may love going for hikes, which is sometimes a bit difficult to do in India. So those are some things which you might feel initially that why did I come back, but eventually get used to it, because there are many positives to look at, and those positives, in my opinion, outweigh the benefits. But again, it also depends on the kind of life which you had in the US. That being said, I very firmly think that this is the time for India right now, because everywhere I go, I see people talking about startups, people talking about their own growth, and it's something which I've never seen before. Even in this park, so many people here are sitting, and many are talking about startups, how they can grow in life, etc. So when I was young, so some this kind of thing did not exist before, right? So we can see India changing right before our eyes. So although if your H1B is rejected or if you have to come back to India, it might look like something bad has happened, but it might be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, Raj. So, one more question I wanted to ask you was that in one of your LinkedIn posts, you had mentioned that the American dream is probably dying, and you referred to that in one of my initial questions as well. So, if you consider the thought process of a student in India currently who is dreaming of going to the US, either for a master's or a PhD, uh, should that person still continue to dream in this way, or should they not consider their options in the US? Are there any benefits to just going there if you, let's say, don't get funding? Because then you have to think about repaying the loans that you have taken. And I guess a lot of Indians are currently in this scenario where they are completely unsure after their college, should they go to the US or not? Is it really worth taking loan of this much amount and then having that pressure on one's mind, even if you don't have the clarity that you're not going to get a job, or life in the US is so uncertain? Can you also weigh some of the pros and cons of both these things?
Yeah, sure. So when I put that post on LinkedIn, American Dream is fading, which I do think it is fading. I received a lot of comments from both sides. One kind of people agreed that indeed it is fading, and other type of people said that more and more people are going abroad. So my take on this is that everyone in their life should at least try once going abroad and see for themselves what their experience is. That is, I'm not against that at all, because you should experience so many different things, and going abroad is one thing you can experience definitely. What is becoming different than the previous generation is that if you go abroad uh, and you come back, it's not necessarily a bad thing. In my dad's generation, if someone went abroad, they just settled there. That's the American dream, because people believed that the opportunities there are much better than when you come back. So it was considered not good to come back from the US. So all I want to say is that if you go to the US, right, which I think everyone should try once, and if you don't like it, just keep in mind that you have this option of coming back to India, which is equally good as staying there in the US. And that option has now become open. That door has now become open, which has changed so many things. The world is truly becoming globalized. So doing a job in US and doing a startup in India both have equal benefits. Both can lead to great career outcomes for you. This was not the case 20-25 years back. So the entire ecosystem is changing, I think, with respect to going to the US. So I would suggest that if people have the dream to go to the US and to study in the best colleges in the world like MIT, Stanford, etc., please pursue that dream. But after you graduate from those colleges, keep your options open. The world is globalized. Think about where you want to stay, what you want to do in the future. And if you think coming to India fits in your future, do it, because it's not a bad thing that you can come back to India. In that sense, I still think the American dream has faded away. It has lost its glory, which it was 15, 20 years back in our dad's generation. But now things are a bit different.
Okay. Yeah, I think this would really help a lot of students, because I have also personally interacted with several of them who seem to be very confused at this moment in their lives, and getting a perspective from someone who has actually gone through the process, who has spent considerable amount of time, more than 5 years in the US, and then came back to India. Uh, I think this perspective would really help them. Hello, Rajat. It's great to be talking like this. So first, could you tell the viewers and the students a bit about why we are both sitting here? Where are we first of all, and a bit more also about your journey, about how you landed here in the first place.
Yeah, so we are sitting in Bangalore right now. We are sitting in the Kaban Park, and it's morning. Uh, we selected this park because it feels very peaceful and happy over here. The reason we are recording this video today is that we want to talk about one specific issue which we are seeing. It's concerning a lot of people. It's with respect to H-1B visas in the US, and more specifically or more generally, students who are currently studying in the US or thinking of going to the US from India. There are a lot of doubts on whether it's the right time to go to the US, uh, whether I should just leave my job and come back to India. Some people are not getting their H-1B visa sponsored. Uh, some students are not able to find a proper job in the US. So it seems that the landscape is changing a little bit as compared to how it was 5 or 10 years ago. And we just wanted to share our experiences with all of you and hope that it helps you in your journey to get this perspective.
So consider a student right now whose H1B visa has, let's say, been rejected for 3 times,
Yeah.
and they have to take the decision to come back to India. Or let's say if someone has been let go or laid off in their job, and they have about 60 days in the US to find a new job, and that also can be pretty stressful. So what can you tell these students about their current situation? What are the possibilities for them? How can they think through this situation given your experience?
Yeah, so one thing I would like to say is that coming back to India, in your head, it might be a very difficult thing to do, and something that you are not at all ready for. And since you have only 60 days now to find a job, it might be a little bit pressurizing also, because you have to completely change your lifestyle when you come back to India, find a new job, etc., etc. So, in my experience, when I came back to India from the US, it did take me some time to get used to the lifestyle over here, to get used to the conditions, the facilities. It was hardly 2 to 3 months. So, it was just a blip when you now consider the span of 2 years that I am in India. And now I'm well settled. Uh, so I want to assure you that it's not very hard here here as well. Initially, it might take some time for you to get used to the things, but then later on, if you just break it down, why you are currently getting pressurized or stressed, uh, there might be a number of reasons, right? One of the reasons might be that you had a specific dream for yourself when you went to the US, of becoming this person, becoming that person, and now suddenly all of that dreams are getting crushed just because you're not able to find a job. Uh, so that might be one of the reasons. The second reason might be that uh, it might be related to the pressure which the society exerts on us sometimes. There is a notion that if a student is living or studying in the US, they are probably doing very well, and you might be thinking from the point of view of your family as well, that uh, it's a good feeling to let other relatives or society know that my son or daughter is studying in the US. So that might be playing in your mind a little bit. And the third thing might just be the pressure of coming back to India, and then getting used to all the things over here. Irrespective of whichever boat you're in, um, I just want to assure you that initially it might be a little bit hard, but you can still form new dreams here in India. And even if the landscape in the US is changing a little bit, which all of us are definitely seeing, the landscape in India is also becoming much better. The number of opportunities are more. The startup scene is booming a lot. There are so many new opportunities. Uh, Even in industries, companies, people are getting good jobs and good salaries. And life is generally good here, if you spend some time, and if you have an open mindset. So I would just recommend all of you to keep your mind open, and uh, just have that optimism that things are not lost completely. It's still possible to build a life even if you quit US and come back to India, and maybe it might be for the better. Even if you are getting a good job, if you are around your family, uh, if the opportunities are also good, also very good, then why not just stay in India and come back from the US?
Yeah. So let's say if someone wants to come back to India and they want to get involved in the startup ecosystem,
Right.
what can they do about it in terms of in terms of practical actionable items which students can follow?
Yeah. So basically, I'll just explain using my own example. It it has been a journey, in a way. We have experimented with a number of different ideas, and some of them have stuck, some of them haven't stuck. So it's definitely an iterative process. It helps if you have a team. If it helps if you have a vague idea, but the most important is to have the belief within yourself, that you will be able to start something new on your own, and to be willing to go through that struggles of yourself. So the one thing that life in the US helped me a lot actually was that it helped me to understand how to live independently as a student, uh, and that mindset helped me when I came back to India and I started my own company. So you can look at the positive side of things. Whatever time you have spent in the US away from your family, it has definitely made you stronger, and you can use all those things when you come back and start your own journey, start your own venture. The one advantage that you will definitely have is that you will have two perspectives now. You already have a perspective of your home country. Now you have the perspective of going to the US also. That is a very unique uh, that's a very unique combination which not a lot of people back in India have.
Hmm.
So you have a positive advantage when it comes to starting something of your own, and you can use all of those skills, everything that you have learned when you were in US, also back in India, and then just start off. I would say the startup culture is booming. We are seeing the rise of a creator economy. uh, Solo entrepreneurs are able to run their own businesses and make money. So you don't even need a team. Essentially, you can just start making a brand of your own and just create something. So yeah, I would say this is a time where we are also seeing a shift in the startup culture in India, and it's not a very bad time to come back to India and start something of your own.
So Rajat, especially some students or some people who were holding jobs in the US, they were naturally getting paid a lot, of the order of $100,000, let's say, which translates to around 70 lakh. But with expenses and all, even still, it's a bit high, and that was a good lifestyle for them in the US. So suddenly being laid off from a company, or suddenly being forced to come back to India, students might be thinking that I have to let go of this much money in the US.
Hmm.
So, what are your thoughts about returning to India in terms of financial situation? Like, what should students, how should students think about it mentally?
Yeah, so that's a good point actually. Um, so if you are earning a lot in the US, uh, and you come back to India, getting to a point where you earn that much in India might take a few years for you, which is true. It might take some time to get yourself back to that level of earnings. But if you look at the positive side of it, you won't have any pressure on your head of getting released from your job. Of course, that also might be there in India, but in the US right now it's much more. We are seeing that students, uh, or people who are working in companies, they are they are at a threat of getting laid off, uh, and in general that creates a lot of pressure in one's mind. If you come back to India, it's definitely true, the level of earnings, you will see a significant drop in the initial years, but they'll definitely rise in the future. It will take some time for you to reach there, but at least you will have that peace of mind. So there is this balance, I get it. The standard of life in the US uh, is much better when you directly compare it with India. But I would say the peace of mind here is much better. Here you won't have the pressure of getting selected in the lottery or being laid off unnecessarily. So in a way, things are more structured. The uncertainties in life are less, and if you value those things, I think you'll definitely like your stay coming back to India.
And so, how have you noticed a change with respect to independence in yourself? So, for example, in the US, naturally, when students are staying on their own, they have to cook for themselves, and they have an independent lifestyle, which many of them grow to like. But in India, of course, the societal culture is a bit different, and there is a lot of dependence on relatives, family, etc. So, have you found any difficulties in adjusting back to the Indian culture after coming back to India in terms of independent lifestyle?
Yeah, so one thing that I found coming back to India is that there are always people around you, uh, and there are positive as well as negatives to it, in my opinion. The positives would be that you have people to support you in your journey. Uh, Directly, your family is the first line of support. That support is a bit far away when you are in the US, and it helps a lot to have that support. On the other hand, I had gotten used to an extremely independent life in the US, and coming back to India, I wanted that level of privacy and independence, and you don't get that very often over here. And it took me some time. Even I'm still trying to get used to that. Uh, I've created a sphere of my own where I have that independent and private life, but at the same time I try to balance it with relatives, family, etc. So you can definitely create that own spheres for yourself. You can reserve or allocate certain sections of your day uh, for different spheres, so that you can live an independent life that you are used to, uh, since you have spent a significant time in the US and you don't necessarily have to come back to the way you used to live back in India. So yeah, this is also something that you should have your mind open to. uh, you might be having a certain notion that okay, this is how I used to live my life, and in the US it was so much better, and am I going to have to do the same things again when I come back to India? It's definitely not the same. You can form these independent spheres of yourself, and uh, you can live life accordingly. You can set rules for yourself. So nothing is fixed in stone as such. You can live a very happy and independent life even when you come back to India. The positive side, as I've already said, is that you would be closer to your family in a way. So that would be good, so that your first line of support is always there when you need them.
And then, do you have any regrets, Rajat, after coming back to India and leaving the US?
So yeah, this might be relevant for some other people who are now contemplating coming back to India. I have no regrets personally. I'm very happy doing what I'm doing right now, but it has taken me some time to reach to this space mentally. Initially, there were so many uncertainties. My source of income was not figured out. My source of stay was not figured out. Everything was uncertain, and it took us quite a lot of time, months, even for uh, people around me to get used to my changed personality. Then for me, myself and our team to find out the right kind of solution, the right kind of problem that we want to tackle. Lot of uncertainties. There were moments where I felt it to be a bit overwhelmed, but now things are becoming more settled. So in a way, I don't regret my decision at all. For me, it was very natural. I wasn't forced to leave US and come back to India. I took that decision by myself, and right now I am in a space where I can actually think from a point of view of both sides. I can think as a person who has been brought up in India, as well as I can think of people who have stayed in US for a long time. So, for example, in the US, I learned to think independently. I learned to have opinions, learned to have a very uh, diverse and a mindset which is very inclusive of all types of people, which was missing for me back in India. But now I've inculcated both the cultures within me, so that has helped me a lot. So I I am taking my time in the US as something that has molded my personality, and uh, I'm considering if you consider the entire lifespan, that was just like a tiny span, but it has a lot of influence in everything that I'm doing right now. So, in terms of regrets, I don't have any regrets. When I look back upon my life in the US, it has definitely taught me a lot of things. And I've mentioned some of these in my LinkedIn posts as well. Uh, how research has helped me a lot improve my communication skills, understand the importance of networking, interact with a passionate people in a very crowded density, which was missing in India. And I've taken all those learnings and I'm trying to use that in my day-to-day life. So yeah, in a way it has been a very enriching experience, and uh, right now we are in a zone where I just want to give a context of my own experience, and hopefully that helps you to understand the scenario in India if you are contemplating coming back to India. And just want to let you know that it's not a very bad thing, that and your dreams are definitely not crushed completely. So don't get that feeling that all my dreams are crushed and I have to come back to India and it's very difficult.
Yeah, so thanks for these thoughts, Rajat. As we conclude this video, do you have any final inspiring or motivating message for the students which you would like to leave them with at the end?
Yeah, one thing I definitely want to say is that we can see the landscape in the US is changing right now compared to how it was 5 or 10 years back. So, as an Indian, if you don't feel welcomed in your vicinity, in your company, then you should really think hard of why not coming back to India. Compare the opportunities, compare the lifestyle, compare the standard of living, and then take a very rational decision for yourself. Hopefully, my experience and Raj's experience provides some objectivity while you take your decision, provide some viewpoints. If you still have more doubts, questions, it is completely natural. You can always drop us a message. We are very active on LinkedIn. Uh, and as it is, we always believe that we are living in a world that has become very globalized. So, if you come back to India, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will stay here forever. You can start a business that is global and then again move back, and you can have a lifestyle which suits your needs and your personality. So, I would uh, I would recommend everyone who is in this difficult spot right now to consider this as something which is just a tiny blip in their entire entire span of productivity or productive life. And in the long term, you will probably view this as something that was essential for what you are doing right now.
Thank you, Rajat, for these wonderful thoughts. And we'll be concluding this video now. And see you everyone in future set of videos which we'll be making. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.